Hi, thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Spiritual Scientist. I'm Victor. Thanks for checking me out. So, I'm going to ask you a couple questions at the beginning, talk about a couple political things, maybe just about the truth, and then talk about spiritual stuff. So, it's kind of cool. Just question, why do you have to wear a mask if you've been vaccinated? Was it? Why? Why would you? If you're vaccinated and the vaccination does work, the WHO says you don't need to wear a mask anymore, but yet everyone's told that you have to keep wearing a mask. So that's kind of strange. Thought I'd bring that up to everybody's attention because everybody's kind of just marching along in lockstep and not questioning what they're told because you're in a lot of people are in that two-dimensional state, right? So they're dwelling in that first chakra, that second chakra area. They're dwelling in that area where everybody's kind of talking to, everybody's centering on shelter and food and money. Those are the first chakra things. So a lot of people come on my channel and they say, hey, you're trying to trick people, aren't you? And I get that a lot. I go, online if I do a distance healing, which I do, and then people say, "Oh, you're a trickster," or, somebody's tricking. What's the trick? What do I get out? I get satisfaction out of seeing somebody get healed. That's kind of fun. So that's it. So anyway, there's that going on. So a lot of people are worried about the coronavirus, even though it's a was it 99.78 they've been saying, and that's using the numbers that they're using of mortality, non-mortality rate, I should say. And then somebody says, oh, those rates are too high, they should, the mortality, like who are you trying to help? Are you trying to manifest the reality you want? Are you trying to manifest the reality that your negative side wants? Do you want it to be like that? When I did the math again, and I did the math again, and I did the math again, and it looks like to be the last I checked, that if you take the total world population and you take the total number of COVID deaths, you're at 0.036 is the number. And it's pretty kind of easy to do. It took me a while, maybe not because I'm stupid, because I don't deal with percentages a lot, and you have to go to a percentage calculator really to do it correctly. So if you wipe out all the zeros, you have 7,850. It's 7.85 billion people. So if you wipe out all the zeros, and you wipe out all the zeros from let's say, how many people have been, let's say 2.9 million, but that's not the exact number, people have died, then you wipe out all the zeros, so you have 7,000 versus 7,850 versus 2.9. And when you do that percentage, you move the decimal point, 2 over, ends up with your 0.034. So this is by no means like a giant meteor hitting the planet, is what I'm saying. This is by no means that, everybody around you is dropping dead, that everybody was led to believe that it was at the beginning, right? So everybody's saying, oh, yeah, it's a real thing. People come on my channel and ask me, is it a real thing? Yeah, it's a real thing. I had COVID. I had it a couple of weeks ago. I'm fine. It was like a bad, flu. I got a headache for a few days. I have a runny nose for a while. I've had worse. I've had a worse flu. I've had it much worse. It wasn't that bad. But I could see if you're old and whatever. Now, if you have a lot of the spiritual changes, a lot of shifts that I've, being a spiritual person, I could say I've participated in there when it happened, and, prayed a lot during it and things like that. I'll leave it at that. so some changes occurred, and when those changes occurred, it might have made it more likely for certain things to happen. So I understand, what's going on, but in in the higher dimensional realms. But in essence, what I'm saying is that I've been talking about, that the panic, pandemic, panic. You don't. I don't really believe that you really need to wear a mask. Honestly, I think everybody could take the mask off, in my opinion. Although I'm not a doctor, I do healing, but I'm not a doctor in that way. I help to heal the spirit, so then the spirit within someone else helps to heal their own body. That's kind of the thing that goes on. So when I have people that, when you have vaccine companies that come out and say that they can't get sued, and they say that my vaccine is the best, and that 99%, now it's 90%. So 90% of people that get the vaccine will not have a really adverse reaction, but maybe 10% will. I don't know if it's a good idea to get a vaccine when it's such a high rate. You could get sick. There are other things about it, that you could get sick. You could have some really complicated issues. If you have diabetes, if you have maybe high blood pressure, but if you have asthma, would I recommend getting the vaccine? I guess so. I not really a big fan of vaccines in general. I think if you have asthma, if you did the Hamsa breathing meditation, maybe the Will Hof method of meditation breathing, that you would have been better off. And if you do those meditations, where you concentrate on your breathing all the time, that oxygen is healing, and that would heal your body, so you would not get sick in the first place. So a lot of people out there in the world, in the media, don't talk about keeping your body healthy. They're all talking about putting kind of poisons in your body to fight other poisons to make you better. So not a big fan of vaccines. I do know some family members that are very interested in getting the vaccine, and I did have my mom that got the second shot, and she almost died from blood clots. So I talked about that before. So I just wanted to talk about what, to help people. Again, it's not about me, it's about, you guys. So just trying to give you some clear thoughts, and, to go through all this. I don't believe, if if the world is really being affected 0.036, there's worse things. There's cardiovascular health. There's from heart issues. There's worse things. There's alcoholism. There's more people die from that. We should really, if this was all about, instead of a great reset, which Justin, Trudeau in Canada is saying, he's purported saying, hey, this is all about a reset. I want to reset things, so they want to reset this and reset that. So there's a lot of issues going on with that. In the U.S. government now, in the military, if you join the military, and if you decide that you want to be transgendered, then the taxpayer, if you're a U.S. citizen, I would have to pay for it. So right now, if you're, you join the military, let's say you join it to transgender and get it for free. I guess it's $18,000. So you could join the military, and then you say, oh, okay, I want to be transgendered, and the government has to do it, which to me is ludicrous. Also, they did a study. They said that people who have joined, military groups. They looked at the combat groups. When women are in combat groups, like special elite forces groups, they did studies, and they said they're less effective than just all male. When they insert some females and some males, they're less effective. I could see that, being that I think it's part of our DNA as men to want to protect women, and if someone in combat gets shot, you might change more for your attitude in fighting for a female. I can't say exactly what it's about, but what I can say is that the elite forces of our military are going to more integration, which is really unfortunate. That it's going to make us a less effective fighting force. So there's a lot of this political agenda that's transpiring throughout our government and society. So, for instance, in New York, where I am now, it's legal for marijuana all of a sudden, which is a whole other thing. I'm not going to talk about Mandela effect. So, but what I am saying is that there is part of that money is earmarked now for just Hispanic and Black people from the taxes. So what do I mean? I mean that if you're of Black or Hispanic descent and you apply for a grant and you're in a low income housing urban area, then you will be given a grant out of the 9% of that money that's taxed. I believe it was 60% is going to the federal government, 30% is going to the state, part of that goes to the county, and there's a 7% that goes to grants for people of Black or color. So, for instance, and let's put this in perspective, and I'm not putting down Black or Hispanic people. I love them. I love everybody, right? If people are downtrodden, I understand, and you have to do what you got to do to survive. I get it, But if you're let's say, drawn to be a criminal, and you're being a criminal, and you're doing something against the law, instead of, and again, I get it, instead of, those people who broke the law are targeted to get money. Now, I get it. So those people were doing bad things, and in order to not have them do bad things, you have to send them money. So then they change their life, and now they're gonna, go into different things. I think that, is generally that's great, but you have to look at it like, let's say I have kids, and let's say that those kids want to get a grant, that same grant money, but then they mark down that they're white instead of Black or Hispanic, and they're not getting the money, but only, certain races get the money. To me, that sounds racist. It shouldn't be what race you are to get the money. It should be maybe your income level. Okay, maybe that would be a criteria, not what race you are. To me, that's racist. If, like in Oakland, in California, the mayor there said that I'm going to give $500 to people of color and Hispanics. I'm going to give them $500. I'm not going to give it to white people. Every person's Black or Hispanic is going to get $500. So at this point, it's really like, and then people say, well, the people who are making these laws are the white people. Well, they're if you're a Black person, then this all sounds, I guess great. Some people would not feel that way if they're Black either. So I don't like to generalize. because that's not fair. And I'm sure if you look at things from an impartial perspective, then you see that it shouldn't really matter what color of skin you have to get a grant money to go to a college. It should be there shouldn't be it should be equalizer. No one should have on their entrance exam, are you white, Hispanic, black, Latino, are you blah blah blah, are you Asian? Why? Why are you asking that? It when we can who said that? Martin Luther said that. I believe that when people stop talking about race is when racism's over. So I just wanted to talk about that. I'm not scared to talk about racial issue like that. So I think that's important for people to know what's going on with all the marijuana laws that passed. Now it's being legalized everywhere. If it's not your state, I feel for you. Right now it's legal where I am, which is, I still don't believe it. But if the money is earmarked for certain races, that's racist to me. It just is so racist. And nobody's talking about that. And it's just like, what? Nobody's talking about the endemic, you could say reverse racism, but I mean, let me go and cash in my white privilege card. I mean, come on. I've had to work, super hard, for what I have. And if you're a female, in the world, in reality, if you don't look at the fake numbers, then those women and black and Hispanic actually have a greater chance of getting the management than a white guy. It's true. If you look at the numbers, it's true. So there's so much, reverse, what I guess you call it's just racism, going on. But no one talks about that, which is scary. The only group that's not a minority is what? Guess I said this before, but the only group that's not a minority is a white male. Every other group in the world is a minority except the white male. So if you're a female, you're a minority. If you're black, you're a minority. If you're Hispanic, you're a minority. If you're this, you're this. Anything but a white male, you're a minority. And what I'm saying is, in a spiritual level, that what's happening is the first chakra, that chakra that deals with, again, money and shelter and food and all those lower chakras, is now engaged in the racism area as well. And as I think what's happened is, in the higher realms, I think there's actually an angel put in charge of racism. I would not be surprised if there is, in the higher realms, an angel put in charge of racism issues. I know that sounds crazy, but you can have an angel for anything. So to me, I would say that there's some kind of angelic level that they're saying racism, in not in a bad way, but trying to make it justified in justice. And I think the pendulum swings one way and it's swinging the other way so much that it's not fair to everybody else. And I don't go to work and cash out my white privilege card every day and go ka-ching. That doesn't happen. And in fact, I did work alongside a Hispanic gentleman who got promoted over me. But even though I had more time and more experience, he got promoted over me. And I had another black person promoted over me. Just saying. it's true. So it just seems to be, you know, this is happening all the time, and it wasn't my bad attitude or lateness or anything like that. It was just, it's racism. It's what it is. So I've seen it so many times, and it's unfortunate that that's happening. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Suez Canal. Did I talk about that right now? So the Suez Canal, I talked about that a lot in my previous video. The Suez Canal, because I made another video before this, I erased it. So I don't know if I talked about it, but I'm going to say it again. So the Suez Canal had, I said, you know, it was blocked. If you're not familiar, look it up. And I'm not going to go into the whole thing about it. What I'm going to say is that I talked about how there could be women and children on board that tanker, and maybe they were being smuggled. And sure enough, I said that if you were going to look at it from like a top-down view or looking at it, it would have to be hidden somehow for them to be evacuated off, so no governments get busted, right? With all those women and children on board, I'm sure they got found out, and then they would get busted somehow. So what happened is that someone from Google Earth, someone doing Google Earth, found over the Suez Canal and over the that tanker was it was blacked out. It was blacked out. It was blacked out for a number of hours, and the only reason you would block that out is because of what I said. So I was 100% right, and that was that whole thing where I was talking about the sign, and I said women and children, and to me that must be it. I mean, they blacked it out. Why else would they black it out? Come on. They blacked it out to, they don't want anybody to see a crane moving. And who blocked it out? Google. Just think about that for a minute. Somebody at Google or Google themselves blacked it out so you couldn't see what was going on there. So this is from a high level, man. This is deep. You know, this was the governments of the world getting their, somebody getting their, you know, hand in caught in a cookie jar, and they had to hide it. This was like Jeffrey Epstein, you know, being murdered in his jail cell by the government, and I'll say it, the government killed him, they assassinated him, and nobody said boo, which is shocking still to me, that the government assassinated him because he was going to name names. They killed him. And then the guards, who do you think killed him? The government, of course. What, you think some foreign entity, something magically happened, he just hanged himself? He had paper, he had a paper nude. How could he hang himself with, he only had paper clothes. There was nothing to hang himself with. If you look at the jail cell, there was no, there's nothing to, he couldn't have, it's impossible. If you know about a jail cell, it's impossible. So the government killed him. So people aren't paying attention to this, and they let that slide. Like, what do? I guess I just go on with my life. And people let that go, and now this go, and they're going to, what the government's realizing is, hey, we could get away with this. Nobody's going to do anything. Nobody's going to say anything, you know? And it's a shame. It's a real shame that nobody has the balls to come forward and say, hey, the government assassinated Jeffrey Epstein. Obviously, no one said that once but me. And I've said that before. No one said it. And it's just a shame that people aren't coming forward and wanting accountability for anything, which is a shame. So I think I've ranted on a little bit. We're almost at 25 minutes. There we go. Boom. So let's talk about some spiritual stuff since I'm a spiritual dude. So, being a spiritual dude, I have the ability, magic power right now. I have the ability to not, to not have thoughts. Wow. So you can not have thoughts too. Everybody has that ability. So maybe you have it already. Maybe don't talk about it. Maybe it doesn't make sense. Maybe you're really a two-dimensional NPC and you never had a thought. Okay. So let's say you have incessant thoughts. They make you tired. You're thinking all the time. You're thinking all the time. Don't know what to do. It stresses you out. You think about this. The TV says this, so you think about that. You think about this. That's how people are easily influenced, is because they're always thinking. You don't have the ability to think for yourselves because you literally can't think for yourself since you're having thoughts all the time, but your thoughts are being had for you. You're not thinking your thoughts. There's a big difference. So through meditation, you learn through Hamsa breathing, you can learn or chanting, you learn to focus your willpower. And when you focus your willpower for a long period of time, you get good at it. You keep practicing. And what I'm saying is eventually get to a point where you can achieve a state of no mind. And it's those little moments that you work at to get into no mind states. So what's a no mind state? No mind is silence. So when you get to that silent state, it's like that. There's nothing there. There's nothing. There's no thought. There's nothing. So like I could be walking down the street and not have a thought if I don't want to. But when I want to have a thought, I purposely have thoughts. So what happens is there's all that empty space. So those empty spaces that you have in my mind, for instance, when I have clear thought, is I can have bigger thoughts. And what are bigger thoughts? Bigger thoughts are, since the mind works in a holographic way, I can have a whole, how do I describe it? I could think of something complete all at once, where other people are thinking fragmented. So that's where the genius ideas come in. So, when you have a genius idea, you say, oh, I know I could do this and I could do that, and this interacts with that and that, and then you see things in a different way. Those thoughts are because you have an empty space to have them in. But if you don't have the empty space, then you can't have it because you're all fragmented out. So that's what I'm talking about. It's at getting to that genius level. There's people are geniuses out there, but they still have thoughts all the time. Just imagine if they were able to have clear spaces and then having thoughts in that. So it's really, if you watch the movie Limitless, I'm talking about having the Limitless pill, the NZT pill. You're able to give yourself, taking that pill, that was a weird one. It's taking that little pill and you give it to yourself, and then you can have clear thoughts where everybody else is having fragmented thoughts. And in a world of sleeping people, the person who is awake is king. So you can be awake like I'm awake. So people call themselves woke, or I'm awake, or I'm spiritually awake, or I know what's going on. You don't, unless you have the ability to be totally clear. And I'm not being mean. I'm just saying that, an enlightened state gives you the state and ability to have no thoughts. And once you achieve that, that's something to be, I don't want to say proud of, because that sounds like you're engaging your ego, But I want to say that's something to note, because then you can see your thoughts and formulate larger thoughts and kind of have that kind of genius idea coming forward. So what I do is I teach meditation, yoga, and Reiki, and all these kind of cool things to try to help other people achieve a no state, so then they can be geniuses too. So I don't view it as competition. I don't view it as, I don't want other people to be enlightened. I want more people to be enlightened. So when you're more enlightened, then you do things for other people for nothing, because then you say it's benefiting other people. So then as a collective, the world, we're raising our vibration. We're moving forward. So why would I worry about money in that respect? The more people I help, the better it is. Eventually, maybe some of that will come back, or maybe not. It's just make the world a better place. Isn't that what everybody wants? So a lot of people don't understand why I would do make these videos or anything, but I'm trying to help people and give them a perspective from someone who's actually a clear thinking individual, who is concerned with what's going on. And you'll see a lot of spiritual people come forward, a lot of people, the purported spiritual people, but I don't think most of them are at a state of no mind. And I did do a lot of research on it, and there has been maybe a handful of people that have a state of no mind. I'm calling it that in the world. And then when I read their stories and hear about it, most of them think they achieved it, but then a lot of them didn't. There's only really a few people that really got to that point of no mind, and I'm proud of them, and that's great, it's okay for me to talk about it, because I'm trying to teach. So that's why I talk about it. But I achieved that state a long time ago. So I'm talking about it now. So I'm not aggrandizing myself to do anything. I'm trying to help you who watches the video. So I hope you gained a couple of insights of what's going on in the political landscape, since it's such an important topic for us to talk about. I'm talking about topical subjects right now impacting our society. I'm also talking about right now about spiritual subjects. So I didn't talk too much about the science aspect, the spiritual scientist channel. Maybe we'll talk about that, later on. Something in science realm meeting spirituality, which would be very interesting. But I just had to get a lot of this off my chest, because the coronavirus scare is really ripping apart our society and hurting a lot of individuals, and more people are dying from the lockdown, far more than would be benefited by not having lockdown, and these masks. And by the way, I just watched a video where someone took a brand new mask and they put it in water, and you soaked it with water, and after 10 minutes they were able to find a little bitty micro worm came out of the water. So it was out of the mask. So it's disgusting. There could be bacteria, there could be worms in your mask. If you're gonna wear a mask, what I would recommend is putting them under a UV lamp for a while first, to make sure you kill all the bacteria in the mask before you even put it on. And then you're going to breathe into the mask and breathe out back. And then you're going to make the bacteria happen from your exhales. And then you breathe in again. So it's all disgusting. But at least take those masks, if you're going to wear them, and put them, no one said this before, I'm saying to you now, and put it under UV lamp, put it in the sunlight for a while. So the UV from the sun, if you could put it all day before you wear it, How about that for a good idea? Okay. Like, subscribe, share. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you so much for tuning in and bearing with me. This is 35 minutes. I'm off today, so I want to take some time to try to help. That's what this is about. All right. Let me know what you think in the comments. Keep the comments positive if you can. And thank you so much. Peace out, Cub Scouts. We'll talk later. Bye-bye.